Hello, Greg.
Hello, how are you doing, man?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. It's Rowan from Silver Tiger.
All right, very good.
It's a privilege to speak with you, and thanks very much for your time. It's greatly appreciated. We're thrilled that
thank you, man. Thank you for the opportunity.
Indeed. We're absolutely thrilled that you're performing at the upcoming Soundwave. But first, if I may, I'd like to talk to you about the album briefly. First of all,
sure.
Congratulations on the album. It's an utterly brilliant achievement. I wish to ask you first about the cover art, if I may. Can you describe the meaning behind the image?
On the front of the, you said the cover?
Yes, indeed.
Well, we kind of, we wanted to take our I had the idea of doing kind of the cover as kind of like an homage to a lot of crust punk that I listened to, like Discharge, and they were pretty much the inspiration. I said to the guy who made the art, I said, I want our record to look like Discharge. There's this old crust punk band called Discharge, and they always had these kind of stark black and white covers, and I thought their albums had so much fucking vibe, and but the three people on the front of it was kind of a an obvious kind of schizophrenic image of, and I think the thing in our album that has the most sonic fingerprint, if you will, is the fact that Troy and Max and myself sing on every song. So but it's still the same band. I think it still feels like you're listening to a band. It doesn't feel like three random singers just singing over one another. And I think the image of maybe one person splitting into three, or it's almost like you got hit in the head and you're trying to focus on someone and you're dizzy and they're splitting into three people, and I kind of had this idea of the image being like this sort of schizophrenic, like I said, image of either one person becoming three, or maybe you're having a hard time focusing, and or three people becoming one of those things.
That makes perfect sense. The album is really terrific, but more importantly, the collaboration between all four of you is even more important. What led to the formation of the group?
Well, I was hanging out with Max backstage at a Deftones concert in Los Angeles, and we were talking about collaborating, and I ended up doing a guest vocal on a Soulfly record. And when we did that, we were talking about bands that we were into and influences that we had. Then we started talking about metal, and the idea of doing a full album of collaboration. We realized that no one does it. It's not something that anyone does, and they do it in other forms of music. They do it in jazz, they do it in hip hop. People will just kind of do whole albums together. And we were like, why does nobody do that? That would be so interesting. Why doesn't the guy from this band and the guy from that band, why don't they just do new records? It would just be fucking, even if it was just one album, even if it wasn't a band, it was just one album, it would be so fucking cool for people to hear, different people collaborating, instead of it being, I feel like metal oftentimes becomes very territorial and very egotistical, and everyone's just trying to kind of hang on to whatever character they've created. Everybody's a character, and they try to hang on to it. And when we started saying that, we were like, well, fuck, why don't we just write an album together? And that was a lot easier said than done, obviously, because then you realize that actually takes a lot of effort. And
Absolutely.
You have to drastically, you take first of all, we don't live in the same state. We're both in other bands. So from 2009 probably to 2011, it was just Max and I. And anytime we had some time off, he would either come to LA or I would go to Phoenix, and it's not that far of it's maybe like a 6 or 7 hour drive. It's only like an hour flight. So I would go out there for 3 or 4 days, or he would come out here, and we wrote maybe 20 or 25 songs together. And then Dillinger was on tour with Mastodon, and Troy had heard about it, that Max and I were doing stuff together, and he was like, hey, whatever you guys are doing, do you have a bass player? And I was like, no, I haven't even thought about that yet. We kind of haven't even gotten that far. And he was like, well, dude, I'm your guy. I would love to do it. And I was like, well, obviously, I've known Troy for 12 years, and didn't even think to ask him just because, Mastodon is incredibly busy. Mastodon, has obviously become fucking huge, since, the time I've known Troy to now, so I didn't even think he would have the time. And, once he came on board, the whole thing really started to feel a lot different. Like when we got in the room, like the songs suddenly started to feel like really exciting. Like, and the idea of like all of our voices being on each song became, something that we decided early on, instead of it just being like, oh, well, here's the Troy song, and here's the Max song, and here's the Greg song. Like, it seemed to make, to me, to be a lot more exciting as a listener to kind of trade off parts within the same song. And that made us so excited that when I listen to the record, I can hear how excited we were being in the room, like writing vocals particularly.
Absolutely. I think you pulled it off beautifully. I'm trying not to be too much of a fanboy.
No, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
In your very busy lives, how important was it to get you all together in the same room to actually record?
Super important. We didn't send any files, not one single file. A lot of people would think that because we all live in different places or that we're always on tour that we would be emailing ideas back and forth. We never sent a single file. Every single thing that was written was written in the same room. Every single thing that was recorded in the same way. And we were all there for every single step of the recording process. So it was really, it made it so exciting because we had everything mic'd at the same time. Like we had guitars, drums, vocals. We had everything set up when we were recording. We had everything kind of ready to go at the entire time we were recording. So if Max, recorded a guitar part and, there was no vocal written yet for that part, Troy would just be like, holy shit, Greg, I hear this over this part, but it would sound better if you sang it than I sang it. You should go in there and try to sing this real quick. And then I'd go in there and sing it, and it would sound good. And then Max would be, jump back in to the booth and be like, okay, if you're going to do that, I'm going to do this. And then suddenly, we'd have like a verse and a chorus. And then it was, all of a sudden like, holy shit, like this is really exciting. Instead of just sitting down by yourself and having an entire album to write vocals to and like just mulling over every second of every part of the song, it was really inspiring to kind of just like jump in and out with two other people and feed off of one another in a moment.
And you can see that comes across really well on the video clip of your playing. IED and Dust into Darkness put together back to back, from my point of view, is just a masterstroke of production. It highlights your true diversity, but also your capability. Was there a particular reason for the tracks being placed the way they were on the album?
Yeah, I'm a real stickler for track listing. Like I really don't believe that you should make an album unless you're making an album. Like if that makes sense. Like there's no real reason to make albums. There's no real reason to make albums anymore if they're just going to be a collection of songs. Like if they're just going to be a collection of songs, then just release one song at a time, or just release a couple songs at a time. If you're going to make an album, then I feel like it should have a flow from front to back. There's not a lot of people anymore listen to albums front to back, but for the people that do, I want those people to know that listening to the album from front to back is going to be different than just plucking songs out at random. And that's why, a lot of the songs kind of connect to one another. I wanted to make sure there wasn't a lot of space in between the songs. Like there's no space in between the first three songs on the record. There's no space in between them because I feel like having digital silence on a record makes it feel more like a collection of songs. I always like it when I can play a record and I'm never reminded that I'm listening to a bunch of tracks. I don't hear silence and then another song starts and silence and another song starts. There's got to be like a flow to it. So I feel like the flow is super important. Every song was placed on the record specifically because of how they felt in conjunction, with the whole.
Indeed, and right down to the last track, it works so beautifully well. You initially were quite laid back about the production of this magnificent album in some reviews. In a recent review, I said it's, for many people, the most important collaboration in contemporary heavy metal history. Do you think it's opening the door for others to follow your lead?
I would hope so. I mean, part of the reason for this was because, like I said, as fans, we wanted to see other people do that. I think it's like a huge waste that that a lot of bands didn't collaborate while they were in their prime, and it becomes so much about ego, or someone's got like I said, a chip on their shoulder because of someone got placed higher on a bill than they did back in the day or something. It's like, who cares? Like, people that are in their prime should work together. And it's better for you, it's better for the scene, it's better for fans, and metal as a genre is dying compared to a lot of other genres of music, and I think a lot of that is just due to the fact that people aren't stepping outside of their comfort zones and forcing themselves to collaborate with one another, and even if it doesn't work, even if the end result doesn't actually work and it's not as good as their other bands, or it's not maybe the album doesn't get well received, it's still worth it, not just for a listener, but it's worth it for you as an artist to grow and take yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Absolutely, and mirroring that sentiment, it's very exciting for us to have you coming along to Soundwave 15. But I have to ask you, has Max picked any particular performer he wants to throw open this year at Soundwave?
I'm sorry, say that again?
It's just a joke. I'm wondering if
I didn't hear you at all.
I wonder if Max had picked any particular performer he wants to throw up on.
Oh my God! No, dude. I remember when he first told me that story. That's the fucking best story ever. Like I remember him telling me that. It's funny. I just got his book actually, maybe 2 or 3 days ago. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I picked it up a couple of days ago. So I'm excited to read it. But I remember him telling me a few years ago. We were hanging out, and he was like, I puked on Eddie Vedder once, and I'm just like, what? And he's like, told me the whole story about how he was like, Eddie Vedder was telling me he was such a big Sepultura fan, and then I got really drunk and puked all over him. I was like, oh, that's fucking amazing. That's amazing. So maybe he'll puke on Fall Out Boy. I mean, maybe I think they would be the ones, right?
Hopefully we'll see some of that action. If you don't mind me asking, I have to ask one very, very selfish personal question, but I've got to know. Your entry into Dillinger Escape Plan is often referred to as almost Roland-esque with his entry to Black Flag. It must seem so long ago now. Do you remember how it felt?
Man, it's crazy because I kind of don't. It's very tough for me to remember. Everything has moved so quickly, and I look at Ben, who is like a brother to me now, and we've been in the same band together for 13 years, and we've weathered all these weathered all these member changes, and people getting hurt, and just all this personal, all the personal shit in life that you go through in your 20s and early 30s. Like, we've been through all that together, and we keep making records together, and it's really hard to remember now, man. Like, I can remember it, like it's like looking at like a video or like looking at a picture. Like, I can remember certain shows and certain moments, but it's really tough to remember, the feeling individually. Like, I remember as a band, the feeling as a band of like kind of, we didn't think we were going to be around very long, so we really, couldn't conceive of being a career. Like, we didn't think, we were all fucking completely broke, completely destitute. I had declared bankruptcy within like a year of being in Dillinger. I had declared bankruptcy, fucking, had my car repossessed, like we were all just completely broke, and all we cared about was just, we were just so explosive, and we had so much fire as a band, and really just wanted to fucking kind of rewrite, the rules and bring like kind of like a punk rock energy into the metal scene that we thought was lacking at the time, and kind of shake things up a little bit. And I don't remember it individually so much as I remember it collectively, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes perfect sense. I'm trying not to run over time here, but it's just such a thrill to speak to you, albeit over the phone. I've got to ask.
No, don't sweat it, man.
Do you have a favourite track to perform from the album? Something you're looking forward to pumping out live at Soundwave?
It's tough because we haven't played any shows yet, but when I listen to the record, I actually listened to it the other day for the first time. That I haven't heard it maybe in like half a year, and I listened to it yesterday, and trying to think about, okay, what order are we going to play some of these in, like what songs come first. And I really think that the second track on the record, that track Face Down, is going to be really energetic live for some reason. I feel like that's going to be a good one. Dust Into Darkness, I'm excited about.
Me too.
I think we're going to try to write some. I think we're going to try to write some new stuff too to play, and that's what I'm really excited about. Is maybe possibly writing a new song, and throwing that in there somewhere, or just doing weird shit to the songs, like making parts longer, or like maybe making like the beginning or the end of something like Dust to Darkness, like slowing it down and making it go on for like 2 or 3 minutes or something. I think there's a lot of cool shit we could do, and that's what I'm really excited about, is how can we take these songs and kind of trick them out a little bit.
And that's even more exciting. Greg, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me today, and I can't wait to see Max, Troy, Dave, and yourself come out for Soundwave. It'll be thoroughly exciting. But again, thank you very much.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, we can't wait to be there, man.
And thanks again for your time. And congratulations again on the achievement of your album. It's absolutely fantastic.
Thanks so much, man. We'll see you in February.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, mate.
All right, dude.
Bye.
To make